Welcome, everyone. Dr. Anthony Criniti IV here, also known as Dr. Finance. You're on a Dr. Finance Live podcast. We have got an incredible guest today, folks. Cynthia Rothrock. She's a martial arts legend and an amazing actress as well. So, welcome, Cynthia. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on the podcast.
Thank you. An honor to have you here, Cynthia. So, folks, if you might be wondering, what does martial arts have to do with finance? Well, so Dr. Finance, myself, I actually have a martial art background, and I attribute a lot of my successes to the knowledge learned from there. And I met Cynthia probably 5 years ago, the first time in person in a martial arts convention, and I've been a big fan ever since. I didn't even realize I already was a fan. She just had a different look at the time. Like, oh my God, that's her. Yeah, that's right. So, Cynthia, welcome. Honored to have you here.
Thanks.
So Cynthia, the way we do this, we'll do a little quick snapshot of yourself. You can tell us about yourself in maybe 30 seconds or a minute, and then we'll get into your actual story. And then I got about 20 questions or so, and then we'll conclude.
Okay. Awesome.
So yeah, you want to tell us a little about yourself, maybe 30
Okay.
seconds?
Yeah, well, I'm an undefeated forms champion in martial art competition. That means I was undefeated for over 100 times. And then I retired from competition and I went on to do movies. And as of today, I have done about 72 movies. And I currently still act in movies, and I also travel around the world teaching seminars. And also when I have some time, I am an extreme adventurous. So I like finding trips that challenge my adventurous spirit.
That's incredible. And we're going to talk about every one of those aspects in the future and the rest of it later on in the podcast. So world champion, that's just amazing. All right, so let's start back with your story then. So I was very surprised to find out that you're actually from Pennsylvania. I'm from Philadelphia, and you're in Scranton. I'm a new big fan of Scranton. Beautiful place. Can you tell us about growing up, maybe the first 10 years growing up in Scranton, Pennsylvania, what you did there and things like that?
Yeah, well, I was kind of always like a daddy's girl. So I think my dad wished that he had a son, and I'm an only child. So my dad used to take me fishing, ice fishing, to the movies, swimming, playing baseball, doing all kind of sports. And I think I sort of became an out of the box kind of a child. I like things that were different and unusual, which I still hold to today. And when I was 13 years old, my girlfriend's parents owned a health club, and they would on Sunday they would come and they would clean all the equipment, and my friend and I would go into the big exercise room and practice cartwheels and rolls and just have fun in this big open space. And then they came in one day with their karate uniforms on and they started practicing their movements, and I never saw anything like that. I didn't even know what it was, and I was like, wow, what is that uniform? What's that belt? And they're like, yeah, we're studying karate at the Scranton Karate School. And I was like, well, what is that? Is it like dance? And they're like, no, we're learning how to defend ourselves with our hands and feet. And I found it a very interesting concept. So I went home and I told my mom, I said, I want to learn karate. And she said, okay, because my mom was very supportive in anything, that I wanted to do. So we went down to the Scranton Karate School. And my mom signed me up for 4 months. And it was interesting because it wasn't what I thought it would be. I was like the only girl in the class, and I was very intimidated by all the guys shouting. I was discouraged. I couldn't get the movements down. And I remember I've been training for about maybe a month and a half, and I broke my toe, like trying to break a board, and I had like shin splints. And I told my mom, I said, Mom, I don't want to do this. And she said, well, you signed up for 4 months. You got to go. I paid for 4 months. So then I was sitting in class and the instructor gave a speech one day about quitters, how quitters are losers. And it's basically mindset, that if your mind is not in a positive frame of mind and you're thinking negative thoughts, that's where you're going to go. And I thought about that. I thought about, wow, I hate push-ups. I can't get this move. And I thought he was speaking directly to me. And I said, okay, I'm going to try to practice. So I started practicing this move I couldn't get. And then boom, all of a sudden I got it. I started changing my attitude about push-ups. I love push-ups. Why do I love push-ups? Because they're really good for my arms. They're good for strength. And then I started to get them down. And once I changed this attitude, I just started to excel in martial arts. And it probably is one of the best lessons I've ever learned in my life is, don't give up when things are hard. So from that point on, I was just into martial arts, and from day one until right now, I still, every day of my life, I do something that's martial art related.
Wow. Cynthia, that's a lot. That's a lot of great points there. First, I just want to back up. Your dad, was he into martial arts at all?
No, no, my family were not physical at all. My
Wow.
dad liked hunting. He was a
Uh,
hunting, he was a fisherman. So he used to, do that. But as far as any kind of, sports in school, my mom hasn't done any. My dad didn't do anything. So I'm, the first one to go off into a sport related field.
so it was your friend that really gave you the idea of going and checking it out. That
Yeah,
like,
her parents, she wasn't interested in it, but when I saw the parents do it, but they weren't in my class, they would take, morning classes, and I had to go at evening because I was still in school. So I never really saw them in the classes that we took.
what did your dad think about you doing karate? Because back in that day, females really didn't do that kind of stuff. Was he happy?
I think they thought that, oh, this is just another thing, that I'm going to do. Because I did, like, at that young age, I did baton, I did guitar lessons, I did organ lessons, I did different kind of dance lessons. So I was just always like trying different things. And I don't think they really thought too much of it until I brought my first trophy home, and then they were really, really proud of me. And I remember, I love the belt, I love the uniform. I was only 13 years old, so my dad had these pajamas that I used to like to wear to bed, but they were way too big on me. So I would take my white belt and put them on. And I remember one day my dad comes up and he goes, and it was like white pajamas, that he goes, "Oh, I didn't know that they put this like flap," and I used to flip them around backwards, the flap, in the back. He goes, in karate suits, like how the men's pajamas were, they had that opening. And I was like, oh no, these are your pajamas. So it was quite kind of funny.
And the other part I thought was pretty interesting. You said you broke your toe in the beginning, and here's the funny part, right? Like I remember, so I had like a 10-15 year gap. I was a wrestler for 4 years, and then I didn't really do much but exercise. And then all of a sudden I got jumped back into it. And I remember the first year really learning all the mixed martial arts and all that stuff beyond wrestling. I started breaking a lot, like not breaking, but I started hurting a lot of things. Every day I would go there, I'd come back with another injury. And then one day, I would busted my thumb, it overextended, all from doing silly stuff too. And when I think back about that, it's kind of like what I thought it was very similar to what you were talking about. It's like all those things, most people would just stop right there, but we didn't, and you definitely didn't, right? Like you just kept
Yeah.
going, and those moments are so special. They need to be highlighted because the other point about the quote that your instructor said, in this self-development world, that quote, I believe, originated from Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. He frames it in a more positive way. Winners are never quitters. And if you think about that, to win, that's so true. You couldn't have possibly quit. You had to keep going to be a winner. So you didn't quit from the very beginning, even though you were getting all these injuries. And and that is what pushed you to that 1%. Like most black belts are, the 1% that made it. White
Yeah.
belts, right?
And I think too, I mean, we're talking back like in the late 70s, martial arts weren't really known. This was the only school that was in probably the whole state. And it was a different world. And I remember having blisters on all my toes and everything. But once I put my mind to start training, I started getting really good fast, and I was training for 5.5 months. I was an orange belt, which is the first belt above white. And my instructor wanted me to go into a competition. And I was nervous as heck, like getting up there and performing in front of people. And at that time, they didn't have divisions according to your rank like they do now. I was put in women's division, so it didn't matter. It went from white belts to master, whatever your level was, you were in the same division. And I took second place. A black belt took first, black belt took third. And I thought at that time, boy, I'm only studying 5.5 months and I beat some black belts. From that day forward, I put my mind to it. I said, I'm going to be the best in this sport and I'm going to train so hard. And that was a great turning point in my life, entering in that competition, because I finally realized, well, I found something that I really love and that I could be good at, and put my heart and soul into it. And, I had that goal of being undefeated in professional competitions for 5 years. And that was a goal that I achieved, and very proud, that it was hard because, everybody wanted to beat me, it would have been a big deal, if someone beat Cynthia Rothrock, and I went to China, I went to Taiwan, I went to Hong Kong just to further my training. So, because, it doesn't matter how good you are, there's always someone better, and everybody is always going to be gunning for you to take that place, so for that 5 years, I just, all I did was martial arts training, I had a school and I trained maybe, 6 to 8 hours per day.
How old were you during that time?
At this time now, I am 19.
Okay, so from 19 to 24, you trained for the 5 years for the world champion and the 100 competitions, right?
Yeah, and I was competing at least 20 to 30 times per year.
Wow.
Almost sometimes every weekend I was competing, so when people say, oh yeah, 5-time world champion, it's like, yeah, not 5 times, it's like, or like over 100-time world champion, but it's kind of a weird thing to say, so I go, okay, yeah, so
Wait, you're over 100 times world champion?
yes, it's really weird. It's bizarre to even say that, but yes, in those 5 years that I was competing professionally, no one beat me. And I loved weapons. I used to compete in weapons. And in 1982, during this time, right now, weapons had no women division. It was only in the men. So I had to compete against the men. In 1982, I was the number one in North America for weapons in the men's division, which was the feat that nobody has ever done, because, well, nowadays they have women weapons separate, but I remember, there'd be maybe 2 or 3 women against, 75 men in competition. And that was something that I felt, wow, really proud of, to do that, because I felt that I couldn't just be good. I had to go beyond that to get the judges to score me higher than the guys, because of course, at this time, it was still pretty much like a man's world, doing martial arts.
So Cynthia, I'm a little bit in the marketing world, I guess you can say, right? Building this brand. I would be promoting that like crazy. 100 times world champion. That would have been right next to my name. I would skip all the designations and put Rothrock 100-time world champion, because that's
I know, but it
incredible.
sounds weird, and then
It's okay.
I had this goal after that, competing for all that time, 5 years, I was going to retire number one from competition. And
Wow.
that's what happened. In 1985, I was 5 years undefeated all those times. And I said, okay, it's time for me to move on and, do something else. I really wanted to keep continuing, but I wanted to go out on top, and I wanted to go out on a record that I felt really was kind of hard to beat.
And stepping back for a second, so in the 70s, you said you can fight as a white belt, you can go and fight a black belt in the same event, like, and they just scrambled them all together. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
and the women's, it was just women's division. Mhm.
That's so unheard of. Like these days, they separate belts, they separate weight classes, female, male, everything is, this box.
Styles are separate now. At that time it was just one, it didn't matter if you were a Kung Fu stylist, Japanese stylist, Korean, you were all in the same division.
Oh,
Nowadays, when you go to big tournaments, they're all separate. So you're competing against someone, from your same style. You're not competing against everybody.
I didn't know that too. Wow, they put the different styles and fought them all together.
Yeah.
Wow,
Mm.
that's amazing. So you were yeah, so you advanced forward, and you're in your I guess teens at that point. Well, before we get back to the teens, going back to early childhood, any other events stand out that you want to talk about from that period in Scranton growing up? What was it like growing up in Scranton?
Yeah, I think I loved coming from a small town. I feel it gave me some really good, morals and yeah, there's not much to say. I remember though, when we used to go shopping, we would go to Philadelphia, woo, the big city, take the bus out, go shopping and come back. But no, I had a great childhood, had a lot of friends, went to some good schools and just had kind of a normal childhood, except that I was doing martial arts. And it's funny, I kind of kept it from my friends for a while. I don't know why I did. I thought, oh, maybe they would tease me or something. And really, until I was in high school, people then started realizing that I was doing martial arts.
Oh, the other thing I wanted to say was you had mentioned a really interesting comment. So I remember when I first got my blue belt, I felt different because not that I felt different, I felt that other people were looking at me differently. And you mentioned about gunning for you, right? Like I never forget the day I came back, the day after the blue belt, I show up to practice and all the white belts, even though they're my friends, they're like looking at me differently. I'm like, oh my God, don't tell me you're, they all
Yeah.
wanted to beat me now. Like, I'm still the same guy as yesterday and we're rolling the same way. But I thought that was interesting what you said. You're like, people saw, oh, Cynthia Rothrock. I got to beat Cynthia Rothrock. How does that feel to know that you are like in a level that is officially higher, right? Because you have this name, you have these belts. Just from that little story I just indicated, from white belt to blue belt, which is only the next blue level. I had a significant feeling like, were you definitely like the big bullseye at that point where like, oh, we have to beat her, even your own friends or?
Um, yeah, well, interesting. None of my personal friends actually ever took martial arts. It was only my friend. I had my school friends, and then I had my martial art friends. And I stopped. Like, I used to like to go to dances and things like that. And then I just kind of more gravitated to the martial art world. Getting to bed early, getting up, training really hard. So my life became something like that. But here's a funny story for you. When I was testing for my black belt, there three of the Korean masters came over from Korea, and they came into my instructor and they said, yeah, your students are good, but none of them know how to fight. So for 3 weeks, all they focused on was fighting. And they would say, throw a kick, and you knew that you were going to be down on the ground, that they were going to sweep your leg out. And I would go home limping, and I would have bruises going all up my hamstring, up all over the place. And for the first time, my mom and dad said, I think you need to quit this, because they saw how battered I was. And I remember my instructor told me, at this time, martial arts is a different world. Like today, it's like a business. At that time, it wasn't really a business. It was like the instructors did their day job, and then they taught just at nighttime, and they chose their students. And I remember my instructor said to me, oh, if we don't want someone in this school, we'll just fight them a little bit hard and then they'd quit. And I remember saying to my instructor, do you want me to leave? Because these Korean masters are beating me up. My mom's like saying, you need to stop. And he said, no, that's just their style of fighting. And it was a great lesson for me, because from that point on, I was never afraid to fight another woman again, because I thought no matter how hard they hit me, they weren't going to be as brutal as the Korean masters were. So it was that was a very interesting time in my life, those 3 weeks.
What was your original style too, by the way? Like what you said was
Tungsudo, yeah, Tungsudo, which is a Korean style. My instructor was Frank Chinovich, and he studied under Jae Shin, who actually taught the military in Korea. And my instructor was there, and so was Chuck Norris. Chuck Norris started the same way in Korea under Jae Shin.
wow. Tung Sudo. So that's what kind of, I never, really went down that path. What kind of moves are they famous for?
It's very similar to Taekwondo.
Okay.
Taekwondo was a little bit more known, although Tang Soo Do is an older style. It just wasn't represented as quickly as Taekwondo was in the United States.
Hmm.
And very similar. The kicks are the same, movements are the same. The only difference is maybe their forms or their patterns. That's technically really the only difference between the two.
So you started martial arts. How old were you your first year?
13.
13, and that was pretty much your teenage life was devoted to martial arts.
Yeah, as I got a little bit older, I'd say, when I was like in 11th grade, that's when I really started uh focusing. I was teaching for my instructor. I went away to college, and I left college because I was like, I want to have my own school of martial arts. I want to teach. That's what I really want to do. And to my parents' dismay, I left. I went to Boston University, and I was going to be, I was going for art actually.
Wow.
And I just said, no, I said, I want to teach martial arts. That's what I want to do.
Wow. And what so who was fun, like how did you fund a 5-year career all over the world training? Like did you have side jobs? Because this ties into the money part. Like how do you create a lifestyle for something that you love so much, where the money's not really there? How do you create that, design your own life
Yeah.
attach your own purpose?
Well, at that time I had I had 2 schools in Pennsylvania, and
Wow.
it was very successful. I know at one point I had like about 40 women in my class, and that was unheard of back at that time. Uh, so I think, that's how I made my living. And it was interesting because when I would win these grand championships and I would win these competitions, our prize money was $125. And at that time, because they were professional ranked competition, the promoters would pay my way. They would pay the top 10 people because they couldn't get rated as like an A-rated tournament unless they had so many A-rated competitors there. So I would get my expenses paid, airfare and hotel, and then I would win the $125. And I remember my dad going, "Why didn't you take tennis? There's a lot more money involved in that." Yeah, but yeah, so I didn't make a lot competing, but I had my expenses paid.
Yeah, so you got basically, let's look at it on the bright side. You got to travel the world for free, right? Meantime, you got your school in the background's making you the real money, and you're getting titles from these competitions, which will keep your school open and give it the prestige it needs to keep getting these customers coming in, right? Clients.
Yeah, I was very popular in Scranton because it is a small town, and they were so excited. Like here, every time I would win a championship, the Scranton Times would put it in the paper. So uh
Wow.
so I would get a lot of students through publicity. I did a lot of demonstrations, and it was funny back in the day. I remember we were doing a demonstration. It was actually at a nightclub, and some guy came up to me and he was like, "Why would I want to learn from a girl? Let's see if you can fight me." One of those typical things you would see in like a bad kung fu movie. And I did the bad kung fu line saying, "Well, if you could beat my top student, then I'll fight you." And then we did the demonstration. And after this guy saw the demonstration, he sent like a bottle of Dom Perignon to our table, and he signed up at the school the next day. But it was interesting back then because, there weren't very few women instructors that had their own schools. So I had to prove myself quite a bit.
Wow. You definitely you had a lot of obstacles ahead of you, Cynthia. I got to give you a lot of credit for what you wind up accomplishing, considering the amount of obstacles. I mean, especially at that time, is just amazing. You're like the female Bruce Lee, as far as I'm concerned. Like it's,
Yeah,
and with
I've
your
been
own twist,
compared
of
to
course.
that. Yeah, right. I've been compared to that. I've been compared like to the female Chuck Norris. And it was interesting because I've always been a trailblazer for women. During this time, 1981, I was the first woman on the cover of Karate Illustrated magazine, and the editor fought for me because the the company said, women and minorities don't sell. And he fought, and finally they put me on the cover. I think I was just wondering if I had one here to show you. But that was very exciting, being the first woman on the cover. And you would think it would open up the door for women. And it was not until many, 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 many years later that another woman was on the cover. And even today, when you still think about it, the number of women on the cover of your top magazines is so small compared to the percentage of men. So we're still fighting to get up there. And same thing in the movies. When I started doing movies, it was like, especially in America, I always I would fight, but then the guy would come in to save the day until later on someone said, we're going to put Cynthia as the lead, and let's see if a woman can carry a lead in an action movie. So it's been a crazy journey, opening doors like all my life for women, but I love it. And I feel that, I have been a trailblazer, and even today, still doing the same thing.
Have you ever watched the movie A League of Their Own? I think it's Their Own or Our Own. League of Their
Yeah,
Own.
that's a baseball movie, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I watched it a few weeks ago. It was just on TV and hadn't seen it in a long time. And it's amazing, like same stuff under the sun, and here we are at your time, it'd be 40 years after that movie. That was like World War II era.
Yeah.
And they had the women's baseball league because all the men were fighting off at the war. And it was successful, but like then the soldiers came back and they're like, I don't know, what do we do with them?
Yeah.
And
Right.
it took a whole twist of the story there. So, but they found out they were successful. They were, people wanted to see it. It's just about perspective.
Well, even like when I when I did my first movie, in Hong Kong, and Corey Yun, who is a very famous Hong Kong director, came to LA, and he was looking to audition a guy. They wanted the next Bruce Lee. And I was on the West Coast demonstration team, which was the first Ernie Reyes Sr. He's the one that created demonstration teams, to go and perform and travel around the world. And the guys on our team were phenomenal. And the editor, we were up in San Jose, California, and the editor from Los Angeles said, hey, there's a Hong Kong director here. Bring your guys down. They're looking, to put someone in a movie. And he said, Ernie said, what about the girls? And they said, yeah, you can bring the girls, but they're really looking for a guy. So I went down, this was like 1980, went down to Heel Cho's school, which was a very big popular school in Beverly Hills. And there must have been about 300 martial artists there, very few women, mostly guys. And I think the only women there were the women that was from Ernie's school. And I had to do some forms, self-defense, fighting, and I did some weapons. And Corey Yun said, I want the girl. And that's how I got started in film. And I just think, I tell people, you do your best, you go in, because you could have went in and said, oh yeah, they're looking for a guy, I'm not going to go, or, just went in and tried my best. I look at, hey, I could be better than these guys. And Corey changed his mind. He says, yeah, I want to go with a woman. And back then, when we shot that movie, we finally shot it in 1985. It was called Yes, Madam, with Michelle Yeoh, who just won, the Oscar for Best Actress. Two of us were in the movie, and it was very exciting and innovative that Corey had the vision to put two women as a lead in an action picture back in 1985.
Wow. Wait, so was that the bridge? Because we skipped a step, like from 24 years old, you're done competing, you're a 100-time world champion. Was that the bridge moment where you went into acting?
Yeah, it was. What happened there is in 1981, when I won my first professional competition, it was in New Jersey. And they had an A-rated tournament there, and I beat the girl that was number one, and everybody was like, oh, who is this girl? Who is this girl that beat the number one person? And I met the West Coast demonstration team people there, and they said, why don't you come out to California? There's a big A-rated tournament there. You need to compete in all the A-rated tournaments. And I just happened to compete in this one because it was in my area, Pennsylvania, New Jersey is close to each other. So I went out there for a month to train, and I was going to compete in the Long Beach Internationals, which was a tournament that I just heard who's who is there. and I was going to compete in a professional one in Sacramento. I won both of those at that time by living in California and training at the West Coast demonstration team. I was like, Mom, I'm not coming back home. I'm gonna stay in California. And again, my mom was not happy. She was like, no, there's gonna be an earthquake and California is gonna fall into the water. You can't go. But I says, no, I said, this is my dream. This is what I want to do. And so then I started like competing in all the tournaments on the West Coast, where I said, okay, this is my goal, 5 years. And interesting enough, on my 5th year, which was 1985, of reaching my goal, that's when Corey Yoon came and auditioned us. So I went in from retiring from competition to going to Hong Kong and doing my first movie. And I never really thought I wanted to be a martial art action star. I mean, one of my Kung Fu instructors used to take us to Chinatown in New York. And first movie I saw was Jackie Chan, Snake and the Eagle's Shadow. And I was like enthralled by it. I was like, oh, and I would learn those moves he did and I'd come home and take it, I would do them. And like, so now for me going to Hong Kong where Jackie Chan was, this was such an amazing adventure. And I thought I would just do one movie and that would be it. And that movie was successful, and Golden Harvest then offered me a multiple deal contract. So from that point on, it just transitioned right from competition, teaching to movies. And I feel like I really am on my direct path. Everything was, I was very blessed. Everything kind of lined up for me. And I just, had to just do my homework and do the best I could with each different level of life that I was going into, but it all included martial arts.
Wow. So that's really amazing. You're breaking, they call it glass ceilings. Like you just said, at every level, you break a new ceiling and then you move to the next level and then here you go. Right. So, when you got to Hong Kong, like what was the process over there? How long did you wind up acting for, in Hong Kong movies? That's one of the harder areas to do martial arts, from my understanding, because they're really as real life as you can get.
Yeah, well, it was interesting because, I saw these Hong Kong movies in Chinatown and I thought they were going to dress me up, that I was going to be Asian, that they were going to put black braids on me and I was going to have razor blades in my hair, and I was gonna, because I only saw those period films. So I thought, well, okay, how are they gonna put this Caucasian girl in this Hong Kong movie? So that's what my conception was. And I'm flying over and I'm looking at Hong Kong and now I'm thinking Enter the Dragon, where they're coming in over the Hong Kong Bay. And I didn't know anybody. I was there by myself. I just didn't know what to expect. And then when I got there, I met Amy Chen. She was, or Amy Chow. She was Raymond Chow, Golden Harvest owner's daughter. And she was only one of the few people that spoke English. And she said, oh, yeah, no, you're going to play Cindy, a cop from England, and you'll just have modern day clothes on. And this was such what I wasn't thinking of, because I never saw a martial art movie that was modern day. They were always period pieces and old. And this movie was supposed to be 4 months. My contract was 4 months, and it ended up taking 7.5 months to shoot.
Wow. How long did you stay in Hong Kong for?
I stayed in Hong Kong then for 3 years because Yes, Madam was a big success, and it was very exciting, the way that the people perceived it. And I think it was a shock to them, that they saw this Caucasian girl in this movie, right, that can really fight. And it broke box office records like throughout all of Asia. So then at that point, when Golden Harvest offered me, a multi-picture deal, I was like, okay, now I know what my transition of my career is going to be. It's into movies, and it's very tough. I love the fact that they didn't treat me like a girl, and I didn't act like one. Like, I got hurt many times. I mean, I thought, oh, I was going to die over there in Hong Kong with some of the stunts that they had me do. But, you know, I just put that like warrior spirit in. I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to try whatever they throw at me to do. And I think that impressed them, you know, that they could be tough with me, that they can expect and demand a lot from me. And that's why the movies, you know, are crazy. And interesting part is, you know, these movies are, you know, 30 years old plus, and they're all being remastered today. So people can see them. They're on Blu-ray, they're remastered. And even though they're 30 some years old, the fight scenes still are phenomenal, you know.
Yeah, they're
So
legendary. They're
yeah,
legendary. You can't beat that. I don't care. You can throw the Hollywood magic, but the nothing beats the reality. Like you guys had, that was realistic as you're going to get. There's no like using magic, touch, Photoshop. This is you
yeah.
guys really fighting.
Absolutely. There was no CGI then at that time. It was you physically doing it. Once in a while, I'd have one of the Hong Kong guys do a double. He'd be a double for me. And it's funny because you could see, because they didn't have wigs or anything. And here I'd have blonde hair. And then all of a sudden you'd see this dark haired guy, you know, falling off this 10-story building, you know. So if it was like an insane stunt, but pretty much I did about 90% of all the fights. If it was fighting, yeah, it was me. It was just like a crazy stunt maybe that I didn't do, but they were so dangerous. I mean, I've done so many crazy stunts, and I wasn't a stunt person, you know. I was just a martial artist. We don't learn how to jump out of a 2-story building with a fake baby in our hand with high heels on and a fire behind us. Like, it's like,
You had
no,
to do that?
yeah, that was in the second movie I did. Oh yeah, and each movie I've done, I did let me see, maybe seven Hong Kong movies, I think. And each time I did one, they tried to top the stunts in the next one. So I was really nervous each time. But I did it, and it came out great. And just other than a lot of major bruises, I got hit in the nose with a sword. I got a chain hitting my nose all swole up, you know. And I was trying to be this tough girl, like, I can hang in there, you know, I'm not gonna, you know, cry and walk off set. And tears were coming out of my eyes because I couldn't help it when I got hit with the, you know, in the nose, just automatically came my nose swole up. And I remember Corey Yoon coming over to me going, oh, your nose looks better now. It's like, okay.
How long did you do Hong Kong movies for? You 3 years and that's it? Like you didn't come
Uh,
back to Hong Kong again?
I was there from 1985 to 1988, and then Golden Harvest did the China O'Brien movies, which actually was probably one of the first kung fu or martial art movies with a woman lead. That I was the lead. I was China O'Brien in the United States. So this was something new that they were trying. Let's do an American movie and let's like put her in it. And they had Robert Klaus directed, who was the famous director of Bruce Lee for Enter the Dragon. So he was directing it. We shot that in Utah. And I think after I did that, I really liked, well, I loved filming in America. It was like I missed home a lot. And it was crazy because when I was shooting China O'Brien, this is 1988, I was with Richard Norton. Both of us were like in the movie, and we'd come in after training, and we would always go to the front desk for our messages. And I had a message, and it said, Cynthia, call William Friedkin. And I went, William Friedkin?
Bart Simpson wasn't around at the time, huh?
The director called William Friedkin? And I was like, and I thought it was a joke. And I said to Richard, I said, did you like put this here on my messages? He goes, no. So it was late at night. So the next morning I get up and I'm going to call William Friedkin. So I call up, you know, and I said, is William there? And I thought someone was going to like play a joke on me. And he goes, yeah, this is William Friedkin. Then he started telling me all the things he directed. And he says, I'm directing this picture with Sylvester Stallone, and we would like you to be in it. And when can you? I said, well, I'm here in Utah filming China O'Brien, right? And he goes, well, when can you come to LA? And I said, well, on Sundays I can. That's my only day off. I work 6 days a week. So they said, okay, Sunday we're having you fly into LA, and I'll pick you up at the airport, and we'll go and we'll meet with Sylvester Stallone. We'll meet with Joel Silver, who was big producer. And the guys that wrote RoboCop was very successful at the
Oh, it
time.
was huge. It was the
Writing
biggest.
this movie is called The Executioner. And he's like, Cynthia, I want you to play opposite of Sylvester Stallone. And I'm like, I can't believe this. I'm like, oh my God, right? So I went off to do that. And I met with everybody, and they came in, and I was like so nervous. I'm like, I can't believe it. Here I am sitting in the office with Sylvester Stallone. And they gave me a contract right there. And they said, we want to sign you to do this picture. So at that time, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to do a movie with Sylvester Stallone. So I was like, okay, now it's time for me to leave Hong Kong and time to work in American films. And how it doesn't get any better than that, than working with Sylvester Stallone. And then Sly said, okay, I want you to sign up with my agent, and here's my attorney. And my attorney was like, well, you can't do any more Hong Kong movies. You just have to focus on, these movies here. And I'm like, oh, okay. And the movie never went. The Executioner never went. I remember William Friedkin called me in his office, and he's like,
He was freaking out.
he was like, this script is crap. And he threw it down on the desk. And I'm like sitting there going, oh my God. He goes, if you have something else to do, go do it. And I'm looking at him, I'm going like, do you mean this movie might not happen? And he's like, absolutely, I refuse to do it. And the movie never happened, and interesting enough, at that time, it was a pay or play. So we all got paid for that movie. And to date, it's probably one of the most I've ever made on a film, but I would rather have not made any money and done the movie, but it never went.
What was the salary of a martial arts superstar back in then? Not, you don't have to mention your own personal information, but like, what's the average?
Well, it depends, it depends. If you were quite successful, well, I could tell you, like when I did my first movie, right? Yes, Madam, I got $2,500 a week. And to me, that was like, wow, oh my gosh, that's like awesome, and I shot for, what was it, 7.5 months. So that was good pay. It was good pay. And then the more popular one became, the more money you would make. Your prices went up and up and up. And one of the things I really regret is that when I was with Sly's people, Golden Harvest wanted to do China Bryan 3 and 4, because we did 1 and 2, and we actually shot them at the same time. And I really wanted to do it. They offered me a lot of money. I think, back then, like they offered me like $300,000, and that was, insane. And I had to turn it down because the team that I was with said, no, you can't do any more Hong Kong movies. And I regret that to this day, because nothing ever really happened with the team. And I would have loved to have done a continuation of China O'Brien.
Yeah, I mean, but you weren't locked into not going to Hong Kong for a long period of time, probably only a limited amount of time, right?
Well, I did go back in 92, and I did another movie. But pretty much I was very busy during that time. I do maybe 6 movies a year, doing like American pictures. So then I eventually left the agency, because I really, they really didn't push, and I was like unknown in America. I was just big all over the world. So I went switched my agencies, and then I just kept working like a lot on American pictures. So I really didn't have time to go back, because I loved working. I loved doing the movies, and up until today. I just finished one in Mexico last week.
Wow. Yeah, we're going to talk about your new movie that you got coming out in a little bit. So, how many movies were you in the course of your career?
Yeah, I'd say it's definitely over 70. I mean, I don't count them, but it's been quite a lot.
Amazing. I didn't realize that the Hong Kong movies. I thought you were in there for like 5-10 years for some reason, but still seven or eight movies, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, at Hong Kong. And I mean, that's a lot. One movie in a Hong Kong movie is like, just a resume builder in itself. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So All right. Well, cool. Any, if you could bring us up to present then from that point, to forward, what, anything you want to share on your story?
Yeah, then, so I was doing a lot of movies then, and then in 1999, I decided, I really wanted to have children, so I had my daughter in 1999, and I stopped pretty much for about 10 years. I would do a little movie here, a little movie there, but a lot of my movies were overseas. And I was like, I'm not leaving the baby, and I'm not going to take her, to Indonesia. So I just really wanted to focus on being mom and being with my daughter. I mean, now this is like my whole world. And then when she started getting older, like she started being a teenager, oh, she didn't want to hang out with mom. She wanted to hang out with her friends. And I was like, oh my gosh, I guess I got to go back to work. And then it was a little harder for me then, because I kind of disappeared for 10 years, and so coming from a really high salary, and now you're coming back again, it's almost like starting over again. And also during that time, I started doing adventure trips, because I've never done anything like that before. Like I started skiing, I started hiking these up to Everest Base Camp, Machu Picchu. I did the
That's when I first met you. You just said, I just got back from Mount Everest climbing. I'm like, who is this lady?
yeah, right
I
during
just
that.
met her and she's telling me.
And I think what it is I put my challenging into sports, because I was always afraid to do other kind of sports. I was afraid to go skiing. What if I broke my leg, skiing, or, what if I did that? And now it was like, well, I'm not competing. I'm doing some movies here and there, but now I want to travel the world, and I want to do, crazy, crazy adventures, white water rafting. I want to do bungee jumping, so I started seeking that out and becoming an adventurer. Like I did a expedition to the Antarctica, and I just
Oh, you
loved
went
it.
to Antarctica?
Yeah,
Wow.
I did an expedition there, which was insane, probably one of the best places I've ever been. And we did crazy things. We did mountaineering, 1,500 feet up to a peak, which was probably as hard as doing Everest. When I did that, it was so tough. We did ice camping, where you got to dig your bed out of the ice and lay in it, and you sleep in it overnight. And I did the Polar Bear Club, which I hate cold water. I like warm water. I love Caribbean. And did that because I figured, where other place in the world, if you're going to do the Polar Bear Club, than the Antarctic, or we're jumping in this water and you have to submerge yourself completely, and with ice, and the water I think was 31 degrees. And they had a doctor on set, and I was probably one of the last persons to go in, because I was so afraid, number one, of the coldness, but and I remember going under and coming up for about maybe 5 seconds. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't catch my breath. And they have a doctor there, because sometimes people pass out from the cold. But once I did it, and we went back to our ship, and I took a hot shower because my toes were frozen, I felt like, wow, that was something, a lifetime experience. And I think I like things like that. I like to do things that, remember I said, kind of out of the box kind of person. I like to do the unusual. So I started focusing on adventure. And then until recently, I've been doing a lot of movies now, and I have a lot of movies coming. So, my life, it's just, I have this thing. I just love life, and whether I'm working or I'm not, I still love life, and I find things to do that I love, so yeah, when we had COVID, I was stuck in the house, and I was like, oh, what are we going to do? I can't get out of the house. And I remember I ordered all this exercise equipment, and then I found out that here in California, you could learn how to scuba dive. And I said, oh, I'm going to try that. And I love it. I've been diving for 2 years now, and I have, I think, 200 dives.
Oh my gosh. So this addition to the story, actually, I want to go back, because I was thinking this earlier. For you to win all those competitions, and I noticed as a wrestler for 4 years, your life is committed. Like, people don't realize the amount of energy you got to put in. to do that kind of lifestyle. On top, and I did that on top of school. You did this full time. So your 5 years, I mean, you probably didn't have, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe not that many fun things to do other than martial arts. Like you have to be literally devoted to this every waking hour of the day, right?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. I didn't do any traveling. If I was say I'm doing a competition in Chicago, I wouldn't say, hey, let me go sightsee. I'd be like, okay, where could we go train? Where's a martial arts school? I mean, that's all I did. I did things that helped my martial arts. I remember I went and I took some ballet classes because I thought, oh, maybe this would help with flexibility. I took yoga, because flexibility is very important, very important component, being a champion, that you're flexible. I would just do things that would help my martial arts, like maybe like learning some gymnastics or something like that. But I literally, that's all I did for 5 years, was train, and compete, teach, train, compete, teach, and I was always thinking, I had to keep perfecting my forms. And that's why I traveled to mainland China in 1992. And Americans were really hard to get in at that time. It was a very strange period, because you couldn't get a visa. And my teacher got a couple of us to go into the mountains. And I remember training there, and it was like people would just come and crowd around me like by the hundreds because I had blue eyes, because we were up at Chengdu and they never saw a person with blue eyes. And my training partner was a 6'5" African American, and they have never seen an African American up in this part of the country. That's what a time it was back then. And the two of us would walk, and I mean, it was like crazy, like how people would just come up and like stare at the both of us, but I trained so hard there because I felt I was studying wushu, and I felt that's the best. The people are the best in China. And I just had that fever. I just wanted to keep getting better and better and better. And I just, I would win a competition. And a lot of times people would say, oh, yeah, I won that competition. I can take a week break. But it would just put the fire under me, is that, no, I got to train harder now. I got to train harder, because people were taking my moves and trying them. So I'd have to come up with more moves. And, the more moves that came up, the more difficult it became. And then the more difficult it became, it was like, it wasn't matter how good you were. I would do these extreme balances, in my weapons forms or my thing. And, someday you could be on and someday you could be off. There's nothing to say, that you're going to have 100% balance, like, where you're holding your legs straight up in the air for like 10 seconds. Like if I just went like that during my form, people would say, oh, she made a mistake, and let someone beat me. So it was a very stressful time during that time. That's why when 5 years, I said, okay, I did it. I did my goal. And now I can move on to something else, which was movies. And then movies went to extreme adventure. And now I'm doing it all.
It's funny, like going back to the wrestling analogy, when the wrestling season was over, I noticed a lot of folks, including myself, we're used to losing at one time, I think 13 pounds in one night. And we had to do this all the time. That when it's over, it's like, all right, there's nothing else to do. I can actually be free. You get this freedom back, and it's like, wow, I can go eat, and you appreciate things a lot more, but you go to the extreme, right? Maybe, is it possible that maybe after, training for so long that now you feel the need to go out there because you're free now to go explore the world in a way you never did before, and it's pushing you to do this different part of life in a different way?
Yeah, absolutely. Like it just like opened up like different doors for me of things that I want to do that I wouldn't do. But I still practice martial arts. I do hot yoga every day.
Oh,
I have 4 dogs, so I'm hiking with them a lot. Actually, one that's sleeping back here. That's
yeah,
that's
he's
nap time for her.
it's been great observing your dog. I'm trying to focus on you, but your dog's been in 100 different positions, with the arms up and the arms down. And now
She's a
it's sleeping.
steen sealer. She's a steen sealer. She's trying to steal the steens. Yeah, that's one of my dogs. That's this time of morning is her nap time, and that's her spot.
That's funny. What's your dog's name?
That's Arctic.
Arctic. Oh, cool. All right. So yeah, round the bases, full story full circle with the story. So basically, we're here to present. You do martial art conventions a lot too, as well. You travel for them. You travel for movies. You got your own movie coming out now. So you're actually you're back on the upswing again, right? Like ups and downs, the rhythm of life.
Yeah, it's like a circle, right? Like, but the thing is, when you have your downs, you got to find something to create that bring you back up in a different aspect, which I do. So if I'm not working, but I'm always working. If I'm not doing a movie, I'm teaching a seminar. I'm going to a martial art event as a special guest, and then if I'm not doing that, then I'll find like a trip, because I have this thing. I want to dive as many places as I can. It's a passion I have. I love diving. I don't know what
Diving?
it, I think, yeah, scuba diving. It's my relaxation. I really relax, and I'm just like so amazed what underwater, under the oceans, what you find and what you see and what that world is. And I think I've created a passion like I have for martial arts that I have for scuba diving. I'm always busy. I'm always busy, but I love it. I just had a grueling schedule. I shot a movie in Mexico for no, well, prior to that, I did a 9-day tour in Australia of teaching seminars, meeting with fans, seeing screenings of my movies. And then I came back and I went to Mexico for 6 weeks. I came home, I did a seminar in Ohio, and then I came back and I just returned from the UK. I was there for 9 days doing seminars, meet and greets, same kind of thing. And now I'm home for 2 days, and I travel with my friend, and then I go location scouting for my movie in Arizona. And then I head to Germany for 3 weeks to shoot another film. And then when I get back, then I got to really focus on my film that, after 70 movies of doing it for everybody else, I finally decided I'm going to do my own film. And that's a new venture for me. I'm also starring in it, but I was one of the writers of it, and it's just my vision. Finally, I get to call the shots. And movie's called Black Creek. It's a Western, a 1900 dark, gritty martial art action Western.
Wow. Yeah, this is a super cool film, folks. Definitely check it out. I've seen the previews of it. It looks really really good. So we'll talk more about that in just a little bit. So what's is your daughter in martial arts too?
She studied, I started, when she was probably about 4, and then it was very hard for me to teach her because I would correct her and she'd go, I'm doing that, I know that, right? And I like, oh, okay. So then I put her into a martial arts school, and she liked that. And then I wasn't really happy the way the instructor was teaching her. He would go and he would sit in the office and have a sandwich and have an orange belt teaching her. And I had to drive like in traffic about an hour and a half. So I said, okay, I'm going to teach at her school. So I started teaching martial arts at her elementary school, just basically so I could teach her. And it was in a situation where, it was a little bit better, but she would go around and correct the kids, and I'd go, my daughter's name is Skylar. I'm like, you're not doing that right. Don't correct them. Just stay where you are, but she felt like, oh, I'm mom's daughter. So, I could go around and correct them. And then after she got into high school, she went into dance on professional dance teams. So it wasn't really, martial arts wasn't really her thing. And I think because she was around it so much with me, that, she wanted to do her own thing, but I'm very confident that she, knows how to defend herself, that she's very aware. And the first thing with martial arts and safety is being aware of your situations, and trying not to get into a situation that could be dangerous. So she's very savvy on that. And then recently she asked me if I would do boxing with her. And I'm like, absolutely, let's go do it. So that's on our agenda, is to go do some boxing classes, because I feel, anything she wants to do that will help her, in the field of self-defense is a great thing.
Well, if you do boxing, you got to come to Philly. I mean, that's boxing capital of the world, pretty much. We had the Joe Hand School here, and Joe Frazier used to have his own school too for boxing. Rocky
Yeah.
Town.
Yeah, right, right.
Yeah. So thank you, Cynthia. I appreciate you. We're gonna move in. Any by the way, any last minute thoughts you want to add to the story, or are you ready for the questions? We'll move into the questions whenever you're ready.
No, no, I mean, I think, I guess from, all my life experiences, I feel, like sometimes I run across some people and, they say, oh, how do you do that? Like I'm too old to do that. And I feel like I tried today to be an inspiration, not only for everybody to learn martial arts, but also that age doesn't matter. If you keep your body healthy, you keep your mind healthy,
Mm.
you have a positive mindset, and you do the things you love. Try, if you're in a job that you don't like, try to find something that you love. That I think life is about finding all these these things that make you feel like you have the best life possible while you're here. You're making the most of it. So I try to be an inspiration on that.
And what are your tips for aging better? Because obviously, you're for your age, you look 30 years younger. Some people they say, "Oh, you look 10 years young." You look about 30 years younger. So, and I know you said you love life. I listened to that. That was a key
Yeah.
word for me. You think having a passion about life itself is so important? You think that could be a turning point, in addition, of course, to exercise. But any other tips you have for
Yeah,
living?
absolutely, absolutely. To me, it's all mindset, and you just, I've been in exercise all my life, so obviously, I've stayed pretty healthy. But I think other than being healthy is being positive. Now, I've had a lot of situations in my life that were devastating, and that could put you in a depression and a funk. But I just find ways to, say off, dig myself out of that hole. And when my mom passed away, that was a really tough thing for me, and 13 days later, I went scuba diving, and it was one of the best things. I was right in the beginning of it, but I had to focus so much on not, not doing the wrong thing and dying under the water 90 feet below, right? That it was a good mental thing for me. And I think that's kind of what I do is like, like people sometimes say, oh yeah, but you're so happy. Yeah, but I do have problems. We all do, and it's just how we deal with them. And one of my good friends said, for breakfast, I eat my obstacles. And I love that. I love that saying. And
I love that too. That's good.
yeah, and I think, if you can find, and then people say, yeah, but I don't have money to travel. I don't have this. And I'm like, yeah, but you could just go to a park, you could, I mean, I love just walking my dogs like in like a little park, or sitting on the patio, reading a book. It doesn't matter. You don't have to have money to do some of these things that you love. Just find what your passion is, and, and go for it. And I think that's one of the keys to, keeping you happy. And when you're happy, I feel, then you're healthy and positive. So
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Cynthia. All right, folks, we're back with Cynthia Rothrock, folks. I got to say, like, I'm just thrilled. This is why I keep doing what I'm doing, having incredible guests like Cynthia here today. It's just honored. So Cynthia, we just heard her story, and now we're gonna get into some questions. So the first few questions aren't really like questions; they're just basically just talking about some stuff with your products that you offer. So overview of books, and I just want to ask this: do you have any books out there? A lot of the folks that were on there, we've had a lot of number of #1 New York Times bestsellers. I know you went a different way, but I believe you have some books too. I'm not sure.
I do. I have a book that Black Belt magazine came out. It's called Dynamic Kicking. That came out. I'm not sure. I think it might be out of print right now, but that's the only one that I have. For years and years, I've been wanting to write a book, and I started it at one time, just kind of about my whole life, and keeping like an inspirational effect to it, which I will do. I will do that someday. And then I also want to do a biography. So I'm like, well, do I want to do the book first or the biography? So that's like definitely on my list of things to do.
Okay, great. Well, you're in the right company here because I can help you with that book. Books are the reason I'm even doing this podcast or any of the speaking stuff. I started out trying to figure out ways to get it more attention, and then all these other things I learned up after that. So I can help you in any way that you want. So thank you, Cynthia. Be honored.
So thank you. That's awesome.
All right. So next question is about podcast because I didn't know you had a podcast. I think you had like 3 episodes, but they were all really cool. You want to tell us a little about that?
Well, I did a couple things. At first, when COVID happened, I was talking to one of my friends, and we were, talking just via Zoom. And then we decided, well, let's try to, communicate with our fans and friends. So we started that, and it went on for a while. Went on for maybe about like a year and a half, and we had quite a big following on Facebook. People would tune in. We'd have like from 1 to 6,000 people like coming in. And then when COVID was over and we were back to work and things started getting busy again, we stopped doing that. And during that same time, I think I put a lot of effort into, my website. I created the Cynthia Rothrock Association for Martial Artists. I did a lot of things that were technical computer-based things. And I did a couple, like I have a YouTube channel, which is the Cynthia Rothrock channel. And it's kind of got a mixture of martial arts, adventure. I was doing like a podcast interviewing some martial artists as well. But again, this was all during the time I was home, and I was looking for creative projects to do. So I haven't done them like recently because I've been traveling and shooting and filming, but that was a creative path for me to do something and stay in communication with people that had to stay in their house. So kind of helping to it was funny. We were never really had a format, just like people laughing, like cooking pizza, things like that, and whatever came to our mind. And it was fun, and I think it was helpful for during that period of time for us and for people.
Yeah, it was a very interesting time. You get to see like all kinds of superstars just hanging out in their house. They have nothing else to do. Like even the news channels, like they're in their house. Like what are they doing?
I know it was
Kind of
very,
odd.
very strange.
All right, thank you, Cynthia. All right, so Cynthia, we've already talked a lot about your movies, but for the next moment or so, if you want to just touch up on any of your movies that you haven't talked about, or maybe your new movie, if you want to highlight that, the
Yeah,
absolute floor is
sure.
yours.
Like doing, like I said before, Black Creek. And we are currently still on a crowd fundraiser, Indiegogo, so people can check it out. You can find out, the cast members, our location, what the story's about. And we have great incentives anywhere from being a VIP on the set to be an associate producer, an executive producer. I think we still have a spot for people that they can sign up to have a line in the film. We were very successful on having our big ticket. Someone can have a fight scene with myself or one of the action stars, and we kind of sold out on all of those, but there's still some great incentives left. And at the same time, helping, we have the funding, but this money, that any additional money coming in will be like for extra cameras, extra shooting days, because a lot of times when you're doing action movies, the fights take a lot longer than you anticipate. So I don't want to have a fight scene come in and say, okay, we have to do this in like 45 minutes. I want to take the times because this is my film, and I want to make sure that the action is incredible. So people can check that out on blackcreekmovie.com and find out more about it. And we are shooting this October 30th in Benson, Arizona. So it's exciting, and it's different. Again, I feel like I always like to go for the different. So when I was creating the idea of what kind of movie I wanted to do, I love Westerns. So, and there wasn't too many, there were actually none other than Annie Oakley, like female gunslingers, especially in the movies that you would think of. So I thought, okay, and I like dark movies and I like gritty. And so that's kind of how I geared this movie. And it's been kind of compared to like the Expendables with martial art people in this film, although it has nothing like that. But you'll see like a lot of people, martial art actors and also cameos from a lot of my friends that want to come and just be part of this film. So I'm so excited to bring this to everybody. And again, here it is now, a woman martial artist doing her own movie, producing it and starring in it. Again, I hope to inspire other people, you know, to have faith in themselves, and that yes, you could do what you want to do, because this has been a dream of mine for a long time.
You want to give us a little sneak peek on what it's about?
Yeah, it's basically a revenge story. You know, the bad guys come into town. It's a very dystopian kind of atmosphere. Basically, it's me going after the bad guys, and you
And
know,
gals, there could be bad gals too, right?
yeah, there are some bad girls in there too. Yeah, it's funny. See, that's my Scranton thing that I say. I say you guys, you know, and
Yeah,
it's like whether they're male or female.
yeah, me
Like
too.
how you guys doing? You know, it's like it's just that Scranton thing that I still carry with me. But yeah, we have your friend Forbes Riley in it too, and she's playing an awesome part. We have a fight scene together, so I'm so excited to have her as part of the cast as well.
I can't wait to see that. That's going to be incredible. She's playing a bad person, bad girl.
Yeah, she's kind of good and bad. You know,
Ah,
she kind of is in cahoots with Richard Norton, who is the main bad guy in the film.
oh wow, that's really cool. Yeah, so I didn't know about that. So you can actually that's a very creative strategy. So people who want to invest, they can buy roles in the play in the movie, right? Like they can
Yeah,
buy
because
different things.
yeah, so many people said this is my dream come true, because I tell you, you know, almost every martial artist wants to be in an action picture, and they
Yeah.
just don't make enough of them. And it's almost like a 1% chance that someone will have that opportunity. But now, you know, someone has the opportunity to be in the film and meet like Billy Blanks, Richard Norton, Don the Dragon Wilson, Kevin Sorbo, Olivier Gruner, Benny the Jetter Ketis, Keith Vitale, you know, all these martial art greats. It's going to be a great opportunity, you know. And like I said, when I was first doing my movie, Yes, Madam, I thought, oh, I'm going to be in a movie someday. Maybe I'll be on a poster and I could show my kids I did a movie, because it's just a rare occasion that the average person can be in a big epic martial art movie. And now there's a chance, you know, for people to be in it. And I've had people say, thank you, this has been the dream of my life. And, you know, I love that I can help, you know, people make their dreams come true. And at the same time, you know, I'm going to have my choreographers work with people on the fight scenes, and you know, I'm almost as proud for them to be in it as I am for me to do this movie, because I could see their excitement and how this would never have happened, you know, unless I had this incentive for them. So it's very exciting, and it means a lot to me that you know, that people are supporting this film Black Creek in such a big way.
I think what you're doing is actually genius. I mean, this ties back to the money thing, right? Finance, because here you got a lot of actors and actresses for free now, and they're paying you to be in it, right? So you got the cost down low, you're making money, and what are you creating? You're helping people reach some of their goals in life, and you're creating a permanent brand evangelist for your movie. Like, you think every one of these people in the movie, they're going to go home and tell the world that they know that they were in this movie, right? So even if you got 10 people like that, and I'm sure you're going to have 100 or more, like that's that's going to be marketing everywhere, word of
Yeah.
mouth.
Right. Well, absolutely. Well, we didn't have that many spots because, of course, you know, I have the main roles, but
Oh,
you know, these people will be coming in, and they will definitely have screen time, and they will be taking a couple hits and kicks, you know, from one of the main actors. And one guy actually was so good acting that he applied just to have one line in the movie. And I looked at his stuff, and he was so good. So he actually is having one of the parts in it. So you know, it's just going to be, it's a project, I think, that is made of love. And I look at it like it's all the people that have backed this film, it's their movie too, you know. And I think it's just, it's so awesome and unbelievable. It's beyond my dreams that we were able to do this through crowd fundraising. And not only do they do that, but they get great incentives too. Like they get tickets to the premiere that we're going to have. They get like a T-shirt. They get a DVD copy. A signed picture of the cast. We have a signed script of the whole cast. We've sold out really fast about like the hat that I'm going to wear and the badge that I'm going to have. We had like a promotional package, but I'm just so excited that so many people want to be part of my project. I feel very, very blessed.
Wow, that is incredible. I wish you the best success. By the way, how much would it cost to buy one line on your movie? Let's say I want to just walk in and say, "Hey, how are you?" Like, what is that? How much does that cost? Something like that.
6,500.
Wow, 6,500, folks. You can be in a movie for 6,500
Yes.
with one of the world's best martial artists. 6,500, folks. I mean, even if you're struggling, like that's gold money right there. Like
Well, it's only like I think we only have 2 spots left in that for that. There's no more fight scenes available. But again, it's a chance of a lifetime to do this. I mean, like I spend more than that sometimes on going on my trips, right? Because it's something I love. It's my passion, and I think also anybody that is in the film, they get to stay for the whole shoot if they want. They can hang out with all these people. We have VIP day on the set where they can come and we will treat them as a VIP and they get to experience filming. We have follow the director, where someone that they want to become a director or find out how movies are made, they get to shadow the director for the whole shoot or half the shoot or 3 days of the shoot. I mean, so we have some incredible incentives. Also, we have a seminar coming up with four or five of these legends, 3 hours of training on Zoom, so that's a great incentive too, because you will never get to be in a room with these people training and ask questions. So, I mean, I try to make the best incentives I can for people to become backers on the film.
wow. I gotta applaud you because that's just incredibly creative to think of all those techniques to get money in. I mean, this is Hollywood, creative financing for Hollywood. $400,000 you said was your budget, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's really, really good. And I'm sure it's going to be a great film. All right, we're back with Cynthia. I had to pause. We had a very interesting side discussion here. We got some really cool stuff we're going to talk about in just a second, folks. But again, check out that movie. And what was the website again, Cynthia?
It's blackcreekmovie.com.
blackcreekmovie.com. And if they want to support you or give you any donation, that's the link. That's the website to go where the link is to do all that stuff, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right. So how does it feel to be a world champion? Now you're 100-time world champion. So when I wrote that question, I didn't know that, but how does it feel to be a world champion, period, let alone 100 times? I've never met anybody who's 100 times world champion. That's crazy.
I don't feel any different. I just feel like, that was just what I did. I competed, I trained hard. I mean, I'm proud of the fact that I was able to do that. And I do like a lot of seminars, and I try to give people, some of the tips that kept me undefeated for all those times and pass those on. But I just gave it my all. And when you give it your all, you're just going to get better and better and better.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. Appreciate you, Cynthia. Cynthia, why do you like martial arts so much? Let's go down that road for a second. Let's step back. Why martial arts? I mean, you could have been, anything, a tennis player, a baseball player, a lawyer, a doctor. Like, you chose martial arts.
Well, I always say martial arts is something great to get into, because not only is it a great form of exercise, but if you have to defend yourself or you have to defend a loved one, that's priceless, and I'm such an advocate that everybody should learn martial arts. And I think I love it so much because I feel confident. I feel confident that, if I ever had to deal with a situation like that I can. And that is such peace of mind to know that you could do that. And, I love it for that reason. Also that it has given me so many principles of life to do. And, they do say martial arts is a way of life, and it really is. It's like, the principles and the philosophies that you learn, like, never giving up, always stay positive, it stayed with me my whole life. And also, I love martial arts because I get to teach people. I get to pass on all this knowledge. I've been in martial arts now for 49 years this year. And my legacy is that I feel that I've brought a lot of people into martial arts, whether through training or movies. People see that and they say, hey, she doesn't look that big, but look what she could do. Maybe I could do that too. And then they start martial arts. And one of the greatest things is like when people, men and women, come up to me and say, yeah, I started martial arts because of you. It makes me feel really good that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing here.
That's brilliant. And I never really publicly said this, but so martial arts, if you include wrestling, because I believe all those areas are part of martial arts, and in that capacity, martial arts actually saved my life. And I don't want to get into details with that, but would you say that there was a time in your life that at some point martial arts might have saved your life, and that's what kept pushing you a little bit?
No, I couldn't say that because I never really was in a bad place. I had a great childhood, I didn't say it saved my life, but I could say it definitely enlightened me. It made me excel. It gave me a passion. I found my passion in martial arts of something that I truly love and want to do for the rest of my life. So I know some people, a lot of people I know, it has saved them. They were in a bad place or doing things that weren't good. And then they started training their martial arts, and then it changed their whole life around. That if they didn't do that, they probably would have been dead by now. So, I mean, that's awesome. But yeah, it just has just added to my life.
It added value, and
Yes.
yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you, Cynthia. Cynthia, is it better to fight or walk away? Let me preface this question. I live in the great city of Philadelphia. You know pretty well. You're from Scranton. Um, city guy. Every time I walk out my door is always a challenge. Even this morning alone, parking my car in a spot, I couldn't fit my car in there, and there was a guy who was in the car, and he left about maybe 3 feet of space in front of his car, and all he had to do was move up. He's already in the car. He's on the wheel. All he's got is just shift it down and hit the gas. But he gets out the car and leaves enough space for basically no one to get in, and all they need is another like few inches. So he gets out, and I say, "Excuse me, can you move up a little bit?" And he said, "Nah, I'm just chilling." So, and I asked him like 2 or 3 times, and he gave me the same response. In other words, like, "I'm not moving for you." These are the kind of situations that we encounter every day in the big city. You got all kinds of stuff, especially with COVID, drug dealing everywhere, crime of every sort. Murders literally in my backyard, and I'm not bringing me to the front line here. I'm just saying this is what our country's dealing with. This a lot of people are dealing with. So when you learn martial arts, it's like you said, it makes you more aware and more powerful to be able to protect yourself, and just the understanding that you know how to do what you can to protect you or your family. But is there a time to walk away? Like this morning, I just let that guy be. Because I assessed all the circumstances and that could possibly come from that, and realized none of them are good except walking away.
Yeah.
Is there a time for that?
Yeah, definitely. We teach you don't want to fight unless you absolutely have to. I mean, there's a difference whether, you're confronting someone on a situation, or someone has a knife to your neck or a gun to you and they're going to kill you, right? Then you have to react. But in situations like that, if you could get away without having to fight, that's the best thing. You don't really want to do that. And, situations happen like that, and people like sometimes are rude. And I would do exactly the same thing you did. I'd ask them to move, and then I'd just say, you're wrong. Thank you for being such a nice person, and go away, because you don't want that to get into a situation where maybe he'll throw a technique at you and you'd have to hit him. And then, then you have that mess of legality, what happens there. I'd say just in a situation, if it's life and death, that's when you have to fight to save yourself. And other than that, if you can get out of it, just move on and, go your way. And,
Because let's face it, like I'm very sensitive to feelings. A lot of people don't pay attention and try to dissect their feelings the way that we do. Your ego is hurt, right? Like, it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I really want to just but you can't do that. You have to react better and be better. You got to be a better version of yourself in those moments and see it from a different perspective. This guy's obviously troubled. He's probably carrying a gun.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we're in not a drug-free zone, the anti-drug-free zone.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
and of course, you probably could take them on, but what is the outcome of every one of those scenarios? How do you calm your ego down, put your ego in check and say, look, shut up, ego. Your family won't like it if you're in jail.
Yeah.
And move forward, because it's
Right.
hard to do because you're fighting yourself.
Yeah, it is. Sometimes I feel it's best just to use words where they get the point, but you're not aggravating something where they're going to come and fight with you. I remember I was young. I was about I think maybe 20, and I was moving furniture into my martial arts school, and I had my purse around my neck. And the person I was moving with said, just put it in the back of the car. And as I did, I didn't want to do that. And I looked up and I saw a guy looking in the next building, like through the window. So I ran up and I ran down really fast, and my purse was gone.
Wow.
He took it. I knew it was him. I couldn't prove it, but I knew it was him. And I did a thing that I shouldn't have done, is I tried to get into his building, the door, it was locked, to go up and say, give me my purse. I know you took it. That would have been a bad thing to do, because you don't know what he could have had. He could have had a gun, whatever. But, my mind got the best of me. And I remember I just kind of kicked the door and I smashed the glass. And now I was like afraid. So I ran up into the martial arts school and I called the police and I said, hey, this guy stole my purse. And they said, did you see him? I said, no, I didn't, but I know he did. And they said, well, if you didn't see him, there's nothing we could do about it. Then he called the police and said, I broke the glass, and I was all scared and everything. And I said, no, I didn't. And then the owner of the building called me and he said, yeah, we had that glass analyzed and it was broken with a karate chop. And I realized that nobody saw me, right? And I said, well, I can't break glass with my hand. I'd have cuts all over it, right? And I learned a lesson that, sometimes, you don't do that. That wasn't a good thing to do. But I think, I was young. I couldn't control my emotions. And that's what, we need to do, even if it's your ego. I mean, like, things like that happen where people will steal the same parking place, and, and I'll just see that person in the supermarket and say, you were wrong. That was my spot, and just move on. But I do have to say something sometimes, but words, and nothing that would create a fight, because you do want to avoid all situations of having to be confrontational.
And folks, you never know. You could be stealing the parking spot of one of the top female martial artists in the world, and you wouldn't even know it. Imagine if that person knew that you were Cynthia Rothrock and your whole background. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, right.
Double check that move. Yeah, thank you, Cynthia. No, that's a brilliant point, and it's a point to be stated, because a lot of people watch martial arts and they get the wrong idea. They think they can go the first year, I think, of most martial artists, when they go crazy, especially when they're new and they come into a new place. I noticed this in my mixed martial art community I used to be a part of. They would come in the door and they just want to punch things, and they think they can get away with stuff.
Yeah.
They have to go through this period of learning that it's also about humility. And the funniest thing is, I remember where I was at that convention with you the first time, and they had the party afterwards. I went with Don the Dragon and a few other folks, and the joke was, we have 2,000 of the most strongest, craziest people in the world here right now, folks. You are as safe as it can be. Anyway, safer than any other place in the world. because they all know humility, right? They have to learn this as a part of their evolution of martial arts. Would you agree?
Yeah, and it's also respect. You learn so much respect when you're in a martial arts school. Like, we have people sometimes that come in with the wrong attitude, like saying, "Yeah, I just want to learn how to fight so I can," maybe they have been in a gang or something like that. And just through the training and the respect and the discipline, it changed people's mind really fast. And that's why it does change a lot of people's life. Is that you get all this respect, and it just comes from the training and the philosophy.
Thank you. Brilliant. Thank you, Cynthia. All right. How did you know? I want to know, how did you know that Scott Adkins was going to be a martial artist movie star? And signed "See You in the Movies" when you first met him. Now this is famous martial artist Scott Adkins. He was her fan going into Blockbuster, and she didn't know him, but she wrote "See You in the Movies," and then he becomes a famous movie star. And I watched that on the podcast interview that he did of you. I thought that was such a goosebump moment.
Yeah, it was crazy because I meet a lot of people. A lot of people want to be in movies, and I think Scott was very serious. You could tell people that are serious about it and some that aren't, and he knew right away that he wanted to be in it. And I think he threw some kicks at me, and I was like, "Wow, you're really good. You have a good look." And I just gave him advice saying, "Yeah, just keep it up, and do the best you can and do all you can to get in movies." And look at he's in John Wick 4 now.
Oh, he's in the movie with John Wick 4?
Yeah, he plays the fat
Oh.
man. I forget what his name is in the character, but they put a
Oh,
big
Keanu
fat
Reeves.
suit
So
on
that's
him.
the connection. Yeah, he interviewed Keanu Reeves because, yeah, they were connected from the movie.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Hmm.
I was wondering how did he get hooked up with him? Oh,
Yeah.
that's an incredible movie, John Wick. A lot of fight scenes. A little bloody though, a little bloody.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
All right. And by the way, to finish that question, that wasn't like psychic or anything like that, right? That was just, or maybe
No, no. I just saw that
intuition.
his enthusiasm for wanting to be in it, and he had all the makings of doing it. And what he did is he didn't give up. He just kept that's his goal. He wanted to be in films, and sure enough, look at what he's, been in some really big films today.
Has martial arts provided you with the method to travel the world? Obviously, yes, but like, and see the world in the way that you wanted it to, or were you just like get to the place, do your job, get out of there, and go home?
No, I always, whenever I'm traveling, I want to stay a couple days, and I love seeing history. I love seeing the culture. I love meeting people. So I always try to tack that on what I've done. And I've been like almost all over the world. I've been in over 100 countries, and it's all
Wow.
all because all martial arts or my passion to travel and just see places. And I love nature. Nature is something, and I've been in some of the most incredible places, when you're standing like on the top of a, like in Iceland, and you're seeing these incredible ice sculptures that's natural, or the lava. I don't know. I love beauty. I think this world has so much beauty in nature, and I love to experience it. I'm in my happy place when I'm in these type of environments.
Yeah, you and me both. What's your favorite place you travel?
It's hard. I'd say it is so hard. I've traveled so many places. I have to say Antarctica is one. Africa is two. And maybe Egypt three. Three of my like favorite places. But I've been so many places that I could
Yeah,
say, no, wait, but I loved
that's a tough
Israel. I
question.
love, I think I love places that have history, that have a real, I love, history. I love watching documentaries on things. And so I like that. You know, Diving spots are a different thing because I'm not really sightseeing. I'm more looking in the ocean. I love Tahiti for that. When
Did you go to the one in Australia, the Great Barrier Reef?
I did not, and I was close when I was in
Oh,
Australia, but I just didn't have time because I had to come back to shoot a film. But definitely would love to. But some of the places I've been is Maldives diving.
oh wow.
Tahiti was awesome. I like diving in Mexico. I love the Caribbean. Maldives, I've been in. Some of the spots that I want to do is I still want to dive Indonesia, the Philippines, Bali. so I will, I put it on my list, and I will make that happen.
That's awesome. All right. Thank you, Cynthia. All right. So, do you have any regrets in your career at all? And let me preface this question. So, you know, you had mentioned that one moment about you meeting Sylvester Stallone, and you almost went that route. I mean, it could have happened, right? You
Yeah.
could have went like
Hmm.
and did movies with Stallone and do Expendables and all that crazy, fancy stuff in America. You're famous all over the world, but America in that
Yeah.
capacity. So do you ever regret that you could have possibly went that way? Or
I do have regrets. I think everybody has regrets, like, oh, I shouldn't have done that film. I should have done this film. I shouldn't have left Hong Kong. I should have stayed in Hong Kong. But, I think we can't dwell on that, because that not doing and regretting that maybe might have led to something in your lifetime that might not have happened, that you're happy it happened, and I always say, who knows, maybe I wouldn't have had my daughter if I would have done that. I would have went to a different path, so I don't like regret it. Like, of course you say, yeah, well, maybe my life would have been different, but who knows if it would have been better, or whatever. But I think one of the things I've learned as I got older is to really go with your gut feeling, and don't second guess it, and don't be afraid to. And I feel that when you have that's probably, the path you should take, whatever your gut feeling is really telling you, don't second guess it. And I found that when I have done that, that was always the right choices.
that's beautiful. Thank you, Cynthia. Very, very wise words. Okay, so next question is about what does it take to be financially successful, both in martial arts and in film? So let's talk about success for a moment.
Yeah, well, success is a different way. You could be successful in something you're doing and not have a lot of money. You could be successful and have a lot of money. And I know people that have no money, to people that have more money than they could ever
Count.
spend in their lifetime. And I think, to me, it still goes down to being happy but what you're doing, and I have a comfortable life. I'm not like super rich, or can I'll work for the things that I want. But I also look at people, that my friends that are extremely rich, and they're like working a lot, and they have to focus 100% on their job. So success is kind of how you want to live your life. If you want that a lot of money, you got to really work toward it, and you got to really work at that goal. For me, I want to travel, I want to, spend time, with my daughter. I want to work, but it's different. So I think it comes from what you really want in life, and then whatever it is, you go after it, and success is just not giving up. Don't accept the failures. Everybody fails, and then maybe that wasn't the right opportunity you should have taken. There's a better one out there for you.
That's brilliant. So you kind of like me, actually, put a lot more emphasis on experiences than having a goal of making money. Like, I was always the same
Absolutely.
way. I'm
I
Dr.
mean,
Finance, but
yeah.
I'm not the richest guy in the world by far.
Right. But, of course, everybody wants to make as much as you can, because your life is a lot more comfortable. You could give back to
Yeah.
people. You could, donate more, but you have to be willing to do the work, no, unless someone inherited like a lot of money, and then they could, just have fun. There's a lot of work that goes into that. So it's kind of like where you want to be, and the work you're willing to do. But like right now, I'm very happy with my life. I don't have to have that, $500 million mansion. I love my little house. I have what I need, and I love to work. So the more I work, the more money I make. But it's not about money. It's about having the experiences. Like, just coming back from England, it was really, really a rough time for me, because I was like, right from the airport, drive 3 hours, go teach a seminar, drive 3 hours back, get up early the next morning, teach another one, but I love teaching the people. I love meeting the people. So I don't look at it like it's work. I look at it like, I'm doing something that I really love doing, and I'm getting paid for it. So
And
when
you
you
just got
go,
back from England too, right?
I just got back the night before.
Oh my gosh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Yeah, when you were talking to me, I was on the plane. I was like, yeah, I'm not home yet.
Well, and then there's the jet lag factor too. So
Oh, I 8 o'clock last night. I went to bed. I was so tired. I couldn't keep my eyes open. It's because it's the different time changes. I go quite often, like from one time zone to another to another. My body doesn't know where it is. And quite often I wake up going, where am I? That's the first thing, like, where am I? And then I realize where I am. And then it's like, what do I have to do today? That's my two questions when I wake up. Where am I and what do I have to do today?
well, thank you. I'm honored again, even more under the circumstance of jet lag. You're still here and you're on this podcast today. So thank you, Cynthia. All right, Cynthia, next question. About interdisciplinary study. How important is it to study related disciplines to be a master in your field? So I wanted to ask you this question because I know you've studied a lot of different martial arts. That's not common, or wasn't common back in the day. And now with MMA, it's being promoted. But the reality is, it's not normal, especially you growing up in the time that you did. It was very abnormal, but you still kept trying different things. You said, I'll do ballet, I'll do yoga, whatever it takes. Same thing. I was doing hot yoga and all that stuff just to try and perfect whatever other angle you can improve yourself with. But why is it important to try all these different, and not just from a martial art perspective, like here in my
Yeah,
field, for example, in finance, I've studied all different other sciences,
yeah.
biology and whatnot. My last book tied a lot of them together. What's your thoughts on that? Why is it important to stop staying in one lane and look outside that box?
Yeah, I think because number one, knowledge is important. If you stay in that one lane, you're only going to get that one knowledge. But if you start branching out, like I've learned things from here, I learned things from here, I learned things from here. And it's really important. It only makes what you're doing better. And me as a teacher, so say I take a Pilates class and wow, that really worked my ab. I'm going to teach my students how to do that. If I study, I have like 6 different black belts. I've studied different martial arts, and I find all martial arts are
I
good.
only
But
have 6 different black belts.
yeah,
We didn't even talk
I've been,
about that yet. 6 different black belts. That's crazy.
yeah, but I've been studying a long time, right? And it's just because the more knowledge I have, the better it makes me. And as far as discipline goes, it's discipline. If you really want something, you have to work at it. Nothing comes really easy. And I think the discipline in martial arts is your body gets really sore. You get a few bumps and bruises along the way, but you discipline yourself. You find the good things about it. Like I hated push-ups. I hated to do push-ups, right? Like, oh no, push-ups. And I always tell my students, the exercises that you hate are the ones you really need. And that's what I needed, because my lower body was very strong in the kicking, but my upper body was weak. So I turned my mind around saying, I love push-ups. Let me do more. Let me do more. Even though my mind is going, oh, I hate these, but okay, now let me do the tricep pushes. Let me do the plank push-ups, right? And it's just the way you think, that and then also like challenges is good. Like, yeah, I don't want to do things that are easy. Give me something challenging, and if I fail, that's okay, but I will keep working at it until I get it. And then once I do get it, wow, look at, I have accomplished something that I never thought I could.
That's brilliant. I love it. And I love hearing it from you because it just proves, like, if you really want to be successful, I mean, definitely from the martial art perspective, but anywhere in life, we can go
Yeah,
broad with this, right? Like, you got to think bigger, think different, right?
absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. Cynthia, why is it important to constantly be learning more about what you do?
Yeah, well, like I said, you don't want to be one dimensional. You want to learn a lot, and there's so much to learn. I love reading. I love watching documentaries. I love biographies. How people live. And it just makes you a better person, and you're not bored. You could be bored with life. Oh, I'll come home and all right, I'm going to eat and I'm going to watch TV, which I do know. I never did it before till COVID, but I got in the habit of watching some TV at nighttime, and I find it relaxing. But it's all knowledge is great. That's all I could say is the more you learn on any subject, especially if it's something that you want to pursue, the better you're going to be. It's like I call doing your homework. You have to do your homework to succeed.
That's brilliant, Cynthia. Cynthia, just to add to that conversation, I always was, amazed at the old school martial artists. So why does many of the old school martial artists refuse to learn other disciplines? Like one of the first, when I was stepped back into martial arts after a long lag of time between wrestling, I
Yeah,
started with Kung Fu. And I'm not knocking Kung Fu. I mean, Bruce Lee learned a form of Kung Fu, right? Like, but the school that I went to, and the teacher, nice guy, but he was just tunnel vision, kung fu,
yeah,
kung fu, kung fu. Like he didn't care about anything else. And years later, one of his family members actually came into the mixed martial art gym that I was at, and I was like, "Aren't you related to him?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "What are you doing here?" I was like, "Shouldn't you be in the kung fu school?" Like, I welcome you here, but like, I would think that you wouldn't want to be here. But it was, and he said to me, he said, "Yeah, it's just certain people focus the same way." Not to put too much spotlight on that, I just want to say, like, every single place I went and dealt with that were focused on their own discipline, many of them didn't want to step out. It karate teachers don't want to learn judo. Judo teachers don't want to learn jujitsu. Jujitsu don't want to learn Muay Thai. Like only a certain small percentage fuse it, this really want to step out themselves. And like we were talking about before, but why do you think the old school martial artists stay in their lane? So reverse this conversation, looking at it from that angle.
well, I'd say, old school, that, when we first started training with back in the day was completely different. You could not learn another style,
That's right.
actually. You had to say it. It was more about loyalty to your student. And I think a lot of times too, some instructors maybe aren't confident with their ability and they don't want their students to go and learn this because then they'll lose them. And my theory was, look at, I'm your teacher. If you feel that someone is better than me and you could learn with them, go right ahead. But I feel what I'm giving you is really good to offer. So I think there's a fear of that. Also, when I was studying Tung Sudo, the reason I left Tung Sudo in the beginning was because my instructor said I wanted to learn Kung Fu. I wanted to learn weapons, and Tung Sudo did not have any weapons. And he said, you can't do both. You got to pick one or the other. And I ended up picking the Kung Fu, which unfortunately took me out of Tung Sudo for many years until I went back in it. And that was just the old school way of thinking, this is your style and this is the best and nothing else works. And that's not true. Nowadays, we have so many styles. We have so many people creating their own styles that, from learning like different things. And I think it's up to the individual to look at the style and say, what's best for my body? Because you can't get like maybe like a 250-pound guy that's extremely tight, doing Kung Fu, like doing the low stances, doing this, it doesn't work for his body. He's going to have to do something that is a little more suited for his body. And I think some martial arts styles are suited for other people. But I think nowadays I see a lot more styles incorporating other styles into, and I think they have to for business, right? Say, oh, okay, well, we don't really deal with these kicks, and then the students go, but look at the school here in a tournament and a competition, they're doing all these kicks. So the instructor goes, well, yeah, maybe I have to learn those and teach those so I can keep up with current things. Maybe I have to incorporate weapons into my style because otherwise I'm going to lose students because they're going to go to a school that has, when I say weapons, we're talking like swords, spears, hook swords, and,
So do you
that
hear the
type of
money in
thing.
the background of this whole conversation? There's
The
money in the
money,
background.
the
This whole
money.
conversation, there's money in the background. The teacher's thinking, I'm going to lose the student. I'm going to lose money,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. And it's true. I mean, like I've had some schools that were barred to, going to a seminar of mine because the instructor just didn't want them to say, well, wait a minute, because I like that. That's what I want to learn, so they kind of keep it focused. And another reason I think too is that, if you stay pigeonholed, I mean, I really think you should be a black belt in one style, 100%. Focus on that style. And when you get proficient enough, then vary into other styles and see. And I think no matter what style it is, it depends on the person. Oh, this technique would work for me. So I will incorporate it into my repertoire of training, but that technique won't. I'm not going to flip this guy. I'm only 5'3", and I know that that's not going to be a good technique for me. Where for like that 250-pound guy, that technique would be good for him, So you learn a lot and you take what's good for you. And I always tell students, when we do seminars, everybody nowadays teaches different styles at different schools, different seminars. All martial arts are good. There's, your teacher's teaching you a right way. This is just a different way. If it works for you, use it. If it doesn't, then you've had a good workout. You've burned a lot of calories, that's kind of my attitude. But not everybody has that attitude, and I really do find sometimes when instructors don't want other people to do other styles or things, it's afraid that they're going to lose them, that the student would say, oh, I want to learn this, so then they leave that school and then they're paying the other school, because like nowadays, most martial arts schools are a business, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's a good way, to make money, and you're doing something great at the same time. You're helping people learn how to defend themselves and get healthy. There's nothing wrong with that, but it can't be number one. You have to think of your students first, I think, and then when you think of your students and they know you really care and you have a good atmosphere of training, the money is going to come. If you just kind of think on money and you don't care about your students, you're going to lose it. You're not going to be as successful.
That's brilliant, Cynthia. And I subscribe 100% to what you said about master your traditional form first and then build from there. Like I'm always a wrestler first. I'm a wrestler for, even though I learned all this other stuff, I consider myself a wrestler, and I built on top of that the way you built off of tongue sudo, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's the same idea, but most people get stuck. Well, let me ask you a question though, right? To expand on this, just to conclude this conversation here, why did mixing martial arts take so long to be accepted by the mainstream? So Bruce Lee said, exactly what we were just talking about. Learn the rules before you break them, right? So we learn the rules, then you break them. But mixed martial arts, he started studying in the 70s. He was very odd to the masses. Like, why are you studying? If you look at his book, so I have his first book that he wrote was actually Kung Fu. It was about Kung Fu. And then his last book that he was working on while he died, the students published it, I believe. It's this big book and has all his pictures of different moves. And you can see his mind was going a million miles an hour. He's got jujitsu moves combined with, Muay Thai moves. And he was thinking very different than the time. Even today, MMA, as big as it is with Dana White and UFC, it's still not really completely accepted. Why did it take 40, 50 years if you go back to the history of humanity?
Yeah.
Why weren't we doing this 300 years ago? Why couldn't we understand the concept of combining all these different styles? Was it just talk about history? You love history. Like, where's history fit into this?
Yeah, because it wasn't tradition. You have traditional martial arts and they keep the tradition and they don't go outside of it. MMA hasn't been like a traditional martial art back then. And, it was introduced, I think, probably by the Gracies or the Machados, and then people started learning it. And I think, it's a good supplement as well, because it's not a traditional art, but to me, you're doing the grappling, you're doing the jujitsu, you're taking it down, which, you do have jujitsu styles that do that. But the MMA, like the mixed martial arts, especially like the competitions, it can be pretty brutal. People do get hurt a lot when, to me, it's a lot tougher than like full contact. And I think, for me, my feeling is learn a traditional martial art and then go into that. MMA. And again, it's like a sport, it's a sport, because out on the street, you can't tap out. You're really gonna, hurt that person.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Thank you, Cynthia. Appreciate that. All right. So did you ever get hurt from making movies? And did you ever hurt anybody else?
Yes.
Some
and
war
yes.
stories, if you want to throw them in here. Here's your chance.
Yes, and yes. Yeah, I got hurt. A lot of times the worst injury I ever had is actually when I did China O'Brien. I broke my finger. So that was the worst one, but I've taken a lot of hits. When I was shooting Yes, Madam, I was fighting with this guy, Dick Way, who was, really, really a tough fighter. And everybody was warning me about him. And he had to do a kick to my face. And the director, Corey Yoon, said cut, because he was trying to learn some English, and Dick Way didn't speak any English. And when I heard cut, I stopped, and he hit me in the head. And all of a sudden my ears started bleeding. And this is my first movie, and I'm thinking, I'm dying. I seen in movies, blood comes out of your ear, you're going to die, right? And I almost passed out. I really did see stars, and I kind of like went down funny. So they took me to the doctors, and the doctor said, well, he hit you so hard, he split your internal ear open, but I can't do anything because it's down so deep. So take all these pills and go back to the set. And I that was like a bad injury. And then one time when I had to jump in, I think it was Lady Reporter, I had to jump off this building. I think I mentioned it before, and I had a fake baby in my hand. I had heels, and there was an explosion behind me. And Corey Yoon said, when you hear action, go, because if you don't, the fire is going to engulf you. So you have to jump. And he goes, do you think you can jump from that 2-story building? And I'm looking down below going, yeah, I can do that. And then when I get up there, it's a different perspective. And now my heart's beating and I'm nervous going, oh my God.
Where'd you have to jump? Onto another 2-story building?
No, I had to jump to the ground. And
From a 2-story building?
Yes, 2-story building. And when I jumped to the ground, it was on boxes with a mattress on top of it. So it wasn't like it nowadays, like you have these big gigantic airbags that, you fall and it's nice and cushy. And I've never done anything like that. So I jumped. And when I landed on my feet, and then I fell on my butt, and then my knee came up, hit me in the nose. I thought it broke my nose. I couldn't see. And now I'm petrified. And the director says, we got to do it again. There was something wrong with the camera. And now I know this feeling, how horrible it is. So I go up and I do that. And then they take me to a ledge. So now I'm 10 feet off the ground and I'm standing there. And now I have my high heels on because they took the heel off when I did the jump. So I have the high heels on and I got to jump and I got to land and stick it like a gymnast. Well, I have heels on, so I'm going like this. Oh no, that's no good. Okay, so after about 30 takes of jumping it and not going like that, it was good. So I go home and I feel like I don't feel good. So my friend says, you got to go to the doctor. And the doctor examines me and he goes, you jumbled your internal organs. And I said, what? Because you jumbled your internal organs. And I never heard of that. What does that mean? I jumbled my internal organs. So he gave me all these like 50, 60 little tiny brown pills to take and goes, yeah, just go home. So I like split my internal ear. I jumbled my internal organs and every day, like the stunts were crazy. And in Righting Wrongs, or I think it was Lady Reporter, I had to be in a basket and we were way up. We were probably about 4 stories up. And I jump in the basket and then I come down in the basket. It's only held by stuntmen holding me on a rope. And I'm like, do not pay attention. Make sure you pay attention, because if they let it go, I would have fell. But to top it off, there was no bottom in the basket. And I'm like, couldn't you give me a bottom in a basket so my feet are on the edge and they have a little tether of my ankle to the basket where I easily could have fell through it. It was insane. Like the stunts were crazy that I did, and I always thought, oh my God, I'm going to die. I'm going to die in this next film. And then I'd be all bruised up when the film is over. And then I'd heal and I'd watch the film and I'd say, wow, these fight scenes are brilliant. When's the next one? When's the next one? But I went through that whole thing like, oh, I'm going to die. And then when's the next film? So like in Jackie Chan, when you see his movies, he always has outtakes of where he gets hurt. Because it happens. You get hurt all the time on Hong Kong films because they don't really believe in doubles. And if you feel like, they want you to do it, and if you get hurt, like, oh, okay, well, we could take a couple of weeks off of filming till you heal. It was like safety really was not the main issue. And one time I had to jump from, really high up on a building to a platform that they raised up, and it really wasn't that big of a platform, and I had to jump and there was no safety underneath it. So if I didn't make it, I would have fell to the ground. And I remember so scared to do this, but of course, remember I said, like, I got a little crazy. I'd do anything they said. I jumped from the building to the platform and I overextended it where I almost jumped off the platform and the guys were there holding me, but there was no safety. I could have easily killed myself on that. And it was just to get me jumping from here to here. So you see my face. Then they had a stuntman jump all the way down and then they picked me up down below. If you guys get a chance, you have to check out the Hong Kong movies that I've done. You won't believe it. It's like insane stunts and the most genius fight choreography anyone can imagine.
I'm going to be binge watching your shows very soon. But I'm still trying to wrap my head around like jumping off the 2-story building, because here with the layout in Philadelphia. We've got a lot of 2-story row homes, and I always, wondered what would happen if there's a fire and, you got to jump out the window, right? Like, I know going up a 2-story ladder, because I was in the real estate business, like what you said, it looks so easy until you even get up there,
Yeah.
and then it's a whole different ballgame. But
Hmm.
so you jump off the 2-story building and you land on this mattress. Did your knees always have to go up to your face, or it was just the first time, but afterwards you got used to it and you can jump a lot
Well,
better?
I didn't know how to jump off a building. They didn't teach that in martial art class. So I didn't know what to do. So I just did whatever felt natural. And when I landed, I fell backwards. And when I fell backwards, my knees came up. And the second time I did the same thing. It happened again, but I didn't hit my nose as hard. And I went home that night and I couldn't sleep because I kept dreaming that someone stole the film. The film like disintegrated. I'm gonna have to do that stunt again tomorrow. And I was petrified because it was if I didn't jump and I got scared, the fire would have came and engulfed me in flame. And when he said action, I felt it. I felt it coming. I was like, oh, I got to jump, and it's just, now stunt people train like things really high, but they got the equipment that's like really.
Wait, you were actually running from fire in real life? Like if you didn't jump, that you're going to get burnt?
No, I wasn't running from it. I was standing on top of the building, right? But they
Huh?
had like apparatus set up where there's a big explosion happens and the fire comes, and that's what it's supposed to be. The building got on fire. Had an explosion, and I jump off,
Ah.
right? Landing on the ground, which I really didn't, but I landed on the mattresses, right? But they're not soft. They're really they're really hard. It was almost like kind of hitting the ground, but not. But they had like a ton of boxes. They brought in all these boxes and then they put the mattresses on top of the boxes.
That is crazy. All right,
Yeah, it was
we can
scary.
talk for hours about this, because that's just amazing. Like I'm really just fascinated with. You probably got literally at least one more story every day on that set. So,
Every Hong Kong film I do.
but one I just want to touch up on. You had I think you said this offline or something. You had cut Richard Horton's nose or something like that. I thought that was really interesting. With a sword. Was
Yeah,
that
his
him?
eyebrow. We were filming. It was a movie called The Magic Crystal, and we were filming for over 34 hours, nonstop. Because this isn't Hong Kong, it's not America. There's no unions. There's no like you have to go after 12 hours. We were so tired, and I was fighting him with the sword, and I think he was fighting me with another weapon. And he was supposed to duck, and he didn't. And I came like this and hit him in the eyebrow, and it split his eyebrow. He had to go and get like probably about 8 or 9 stitches. So yeah, he's got a little scar there, a little reminder.
Yeah, you guys are like best friends now, and like
Yes. Yep.
that's like he's like, you remember this?
He got me back because we've done a lot of
Uh,
movies together, and he's hit me quite hard. And I'm like, okay, I get it. It's payback for the scar.
Folks, we're talking about Richard Norton. He's is it Norton or Horton? Horton, right?
Norton. Norton.
Norton, yeah. Richard Norton is Bruce Chuck Norris' best friend, superstar martial artist in Australia. And Cynthia was in a lot of films with him. So going back a long time, I think, right?
Yeah, I met him in 1986, my second movie, Shanghai Express. He was in that. And then we've been in about like probably 7 or 8 more films together. And at one point we were known as the Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers of martial arts.
So your Hong Kong films were literally all over the world at that time, right?
All over except
You had posters of you probably in subways.
Oh yeah, they were really popular in the Philippines. I mean, it's funny. I had some fans in the Philippines, and they would send me newspaper clippings, and I was so popular that I wouldn't be in a movie, but it would be Chuck Norris movie, and they'd say Cynthia Rothrock is the student of Chuck Norris, or Chow Yun-fat, who was a very famous Hong Kong guy, say Cynthia Rothrock directed Chow Yun-fat's movie. And I didn't. I had nothing to do with all these, but they would use my name in the Philippines to get people to come in. And I remember a friend of mine was in the Philippines, and they called and they said, oh my gosh, I'm driving down the street and your picture is on the whole side of this building. And people used to say, you should run for president of the Philippines. But it was a very, very popular territory for me. The Philippine people loved like my action movies, and not that long ago, probably, I don't know if I have to guess, like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I did Showdown in Manila. It's the first time I was in the Philippines, and it was quite fun. A lot of people would recognize me because they were fans of mine when all the movies were showcased out there.
That's incredible. Real quick, Cynthia, side note to myself, I didn't tell you this, but I grew up in a video store in the 80s. So we had, like, at that time, it was interesting. You talk about Blockbuster, right? Like, it was way before Blockbuster. So we had all the different sections, and here I am, just a kid going through section by section. Oh, I want to watch this movie. I want to watch this movie. And there was like a martial arts section. I only knew, like, Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris at that time, but I remember seeing your face when you were younger. And it was just recently when I was looking, I was like, oh yeah. So that was a big deal back then. I mean, people were really into all of that stuff.
Oh,
Uh,
it was big. Martial arts were big. I mean, actually, we were in Time magazine. It was me, Don Wilson, and Andrew Stevens saying we are the top of video sales sellers of action pictures. And someone just sent to me a clip. It was oh, I'm trying to think of the movie. I can't think. With Elaine. What was that movie? Remember Elaine and
oh, Seinfeld.
Seinfeld, yeah, Seinfeld. They were in a video store. They were,
Oh,
I can remember, they
oh
were in a
yeah,
video
I remember
store,
that
and
scene.
they're talking, and my movie Undefeatable is right behind them on the show.
Oh, I have to go check that out again. I know the exact scene of that movie you're talking
Do
about.
you?
There was the video store
Yeah,
segment. Yeah, it was a
yes,
funny
right.
segment.
And my video is like behind there because they were like so popular in the video stores.
Wow. All right. Well, thank you, Cynthia. Appreciate you. All right. So we're moving forward here. Next segment, the last final segment, and we can get through this pretty quick, is questions I've asked to all the major superstars on here. I mean, from Brett Favre, Hall of Fame quarterback, to Les Brown, top speaker in the world, you name it. So these questions are really template questions. They tie a little bit about the writing world, and then money and things like that, business. First one is a little off base, but can one book change the world?
Absolutely. I think so. I think, like I said, I love books. I love books for knowledge. And one book definitely can. I don't know if it would change the whole world, but it could change the lives of people that read it, because in a way that it helps them to grow, to be a better person, helps them to give back to other people, which will change the world. And I thoroughly believe, not all books, but definitely some books can do that.
Well, in your case, this would be a great question to ask you. Can one movie change the world?
Yeah, same thing. I mean, I think it did. Like, look at, I think one of the movies that changed the world was The Karate Kid. When that came out with Ralph Macchio, I think so many people, realized that, bullying is bad, and, so many people get bullied, and this is a good way to overcome bullying. And also, that brings people into martial arts, so I think that movie changed a lot of people's lives, because like you said, getting into wrestling and martial arts changed your life. So many people that have seen this movie, or even Bruce Lee movies, or even going back then, that was a little before my time, but the first time they see martial arts on TV, like, whoa, what is this? And I really do think when you learn martial arts, it does change your life in so many ways. And then if something changes your life, it seems to you pay it forward, then you start changing other people's life as well.
Mm, brilliant, brilliant response. Thank you, Cynthia. Next question is what role has networking played in your life? So getting to know all these folks and whatnot. Do you think that's very important to meet the right people that can change your life? Without that, like posing this question, the next Michael Jackson standing on a corner right now, without the help of someone, would he just stay there forever, or does he need someone to get him across that bridge?
Well, I think networking definitely does help. A lot about it is about making connections, and people, I do think people can do it by themselves as well. I mean, like, there's situations like, look at Justin Bieber. He first came out on social media,
Mm,
and someone saw him, and look at how he became a star. But, much faster way and quicker way is meeting someone that can help you, and right now we have like social media is so dominant. And I do think, if one of the key factors if you want to be successful is going to networking venues where you can meet people that can give you advice on something that you would like to perceive in your life or your career.
Brilliant. Thank you, Cynthia. Cynthia, as an extension of that question, is mentoring important, and who are some of your mentors?
Yes, mentoring is important, and I think we all have them, whether we believe it or not. And that's just someone that has inspired us or that has helped us along. I'd have to say, well, number one is my parents. They mentored me to be the person that I am. They were always supportive of me, whatever I was doing, even though it sounded crazy or off the wall to them. When I left college, they were still supportive of me. And all my martial art teachers are my mentors. If it wasn't for them, they all have contributed to being a part of my life, a part of my martial art life. And, I think, anyone that helps us out is a mentor. And then whether we realize it or not, we become mentors to other people because we pass on what we learn from our mentors to other people.
That's brilliant. Brilliant response. Thank you, Cynthia. I don't know if you read financial books, but what are your favorite financial books? This is Dr. Finance podcast. So, and when I say finance, I'm talking about the science of finance, science of learning about money and wealth and all that stuff.
Yeah, you know what? It's something now I'm more interested in after, being in the clubhouse and seeing your podcast. And I do have the book Think and Grow Rich. A friend of mine said you have to read that, and I have that book. And I think it's something more. Like I said, knowledge is good, and it hasn't really been that. It's probably somewhere where I need to do homework on. Right. That's the thing. See, doing your homework, right? And an area that I want to do. But I think a lot of the things in life, that I have done, I have followed some of these principles, that I have read. But definitely, I'm going to get more involved in it because it only can help, right?
Yeah, and you got me now. So
yes, I do. There you go, Dr. Finance.
Yeah. Thank you, Cynthia. All right, Cynthia, do we need money to survive?
Yes, we do. Because we need food, we need a place over our head. If we want to do some of the things that aren't free, we need money. We have children, we have to help them, we have to get them to school. So yeah, we do. I think we do need money to survive.
Is finance necessary for everyone? Now, finance, again, being the science of finance, not like I'm going to get some money funding, that it's commonly misnomer. It's the science of finance. Is finance necessary for everyone?
Yeah, you know what? I think some people might not realize it, but the more I see about like the science about it, and you see these really successful people and what they've done and what they have to tell you, it's definitely I think something that you should do if that's where you want to be more successful. And sometimes that's what makes people happy, is being successful.
Brilliant. Thank you, Cynthia. All right, Cynthia, just a few more questions left. How important is having a purpose in business / what is your purpose?
To me, it's important. I feel as I've gotten, older, my priorities change, and it's not so much about having fun all the time and doing movies, but it's like creating a business, and then you become more business oriented. My business is my martial arts, and obviously I love it, but it's my form of making money. And creating companies. Just this is the first time this year, after all this time, I created a company to do my movie, Black Creek, which is a big endeavor, and it's learning. I don't know all the ins and outs about how to make a movie, and I think we we like you said, like learn from mentors or whoever we can. And it's also by trial and error. You know I'm going to make a few mistakes here and there, but we learn. And then the next movie I make, it's going to be better. How to make my business better. So it's a field that I'm really venturing into right now at this time in my life.
So having a purpose for a business is definitely important, you're saying? Is that right? You need a purpose
Yeah.
if you have a business?
Yes, yeah, definitely. I mean, not everybody wants to have a business, but that's fine. But if you do, which requires a lot of work, a lot of homework, a lot of like I said, that doing your homework. Yeah, definitely.
If you had to say my purpose is, can you finish that sentence?
My purpose is to be an inspiration to other people.
Right. Well said. Love it. And what would you like to accomplish in the next 10 years or so? Obviously, writing a masterpiece book, but what else?
Yeah, my first movie is going to be successful, so I would like to do a lot more movies in the future. Definitely like writing the book, doing a biography on my life. I have a lot of projects, and it's kind of getting more into the business of making films instead of so much being in front of the camera, behind the camera as well. And
That's where the money's made.
that's where yes, the money is made. Yeah.
That's what I hear. I don't know. All right.
I'll let you know after I do my first movie.
Yeah. Folks, we'll have what do you call it? A sequel to this, and we'll see what you did, Cynthia. We'll come back and revisit this subject. All right. Thank you so much, Cynthia. Last question. What would you like to be your legacy to this world?
I think, well, like I said, that, my goal is to be an inspiration. And I think my legacy, I would love it to be, is that I've brought a lot of people into studying martial arts that could have saved their life at some point, or also made their life a little bit more healthier, a little bit more confident, a little bit more positive.
That's brilliant. Well, Cynthia, I wanted to conclude here and thank you so much. Honored to have you here today. Means a lot to me. So I appreciate you. And I'd love to leave the floor for you. Anything else you'd like to say before we conclude? The floor is yours. Thank you, Cynthia.
Oh, yeah. No, thank you so much. It's been my pleasure, and I'm really enjoying the clubhouse, and catching up more on Dr. Finance and his methods of finance and helping my business grow. Very, very excited, and I just like to thank everybody that is a fan of mine for all the support for all these years, and I hope you can continue to do it.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Cynthia. Cynthia, where could they find out more information about your website again, and also social media sites as well?
Yeah, my website is CynthiaRothrockOfficial.com. My YouTube channel is Cynthia Rothrock channel, Cynthia Rothrock Lady Dragon on Instagram and Facebook. And there's a lot of fake pages out there right now of me. So usually you could find out the one that I have the most followers, and that I try to stay up on social media because I like to interact with the fans. So every day I post something, or you'll see like where I'm going to be, or a little personal thing or something funny, but I do like to interact with all my fans. So if you see one of those fake sites that doesn't have any, that's not me. So it's easy to find where I am. And I try on Facebook. I know I'm a lot on Facebook, but I try to answer as many people that ask questions that I can.
That's brilliant. And for Instagram folks, just follow the one with the blue check mark that says Cynthia Rothrock.
Yes, I'm getting it. I looked for it. I looked to see. I'm taking your advice, like doing that verified check mark. So I couldn't find it now, but I have to. I am definitely going to do that.
Okay. And by the way, I'm amazed that you remember the handles of every one of those social media. I got too many. I can't remember like which one. Each one has a different one.
Well, I
Are
had to
you,
think there for a second.
are you on Twitter at all?
Yes, I am. I am on Twitter as well.
Okay, cool. And what do you remember that one?
I think it's Cynthia Rothrock, Lady Dragon.
Okay, okay. Because I'm following one over there. I'll double check it.
Yeah,
And, yeah, I'm going to be posting this interview and I'll tag you on all of them. So,
absolutely.
okay.
Absolutely. I'll put it on my social media too.
I got a big presence on Twitter, so I get you some attention over there. All
Great.
right. Any other thoughts before we conclude, Cynthia?
No, I think
Your movie, check out your movie. What was it called again?
yeah, Black Creek. So yes, we still have the Indiegogo campaign going on. blackcreekmovie.com.
blackcreekmovie.com. All right. Thank you so much, Cynthia. And if you can just wait for me in the green room, I'd like to conclude out, folks. Dr. Anthony Criniti IV, also known as Dr. Finance. You've been watching the Dr. Finance Live podcast. Check out the website, drfinance.info. I got a great podcast page there, folks. You can check that out as well. I'm going to be posting this interview to YouTube, blasting out the 20 plus major podcast directories. Cynthia, check out her websites and social media and give her a follow as well. Follow, like, comment, subscribe, whatever needs to do, folks, to be a part of this community. If you want to learn about finance, I wrote my first finance book over 10 years ago, The Necessity of Finance. And then I moved in the next year to the most important lessons in economics and finance. And Cynthia, you'll appreciate this. My last book in 2016 was called The Survival of the Richest. It was a 500 plus page book that tied in, get this, interdisciplinary. We mentioned this question earlier. Finance, well, no, sorry, survivalism, finance, economics, and then biology, and then saving the world. So Cynthia, here is the interesting part with martial arts. And folks, I see finance as an extension of survival. I use my martial art background to come up with these conclusions that finance, well, you got to learn survival first, but the next step after that is prosperity. So I call them the sciences of prosperity, finance, economics, and a few others. So if you want to learn about how that bridge happens, check out that last book. It's a very long book, but it's got a lot of interesting conclusions. And we'll see you on the next episode. But again, don't forget to follow, like, comment, and subscribe. You guys are the best. Thank you, Cynthia. See you all. Bye-bye now.
Thank you. Bye.